Hi guys, fellow warriors, strivers, thrivers and achievers and the strongest people I know. And before I get started on the video today, I'd like to ask anybody that would be prepared to volunteer that's been in a long-term romantic relationship with a narcissist and is either still in it or has escaped, who would be prepared to be interviewed. Now, without, you don't have to give your name, your location, and you could just do a voice interview if you'd be interested. It would be very valuable for others to hear what it looks like to have a long-term relationship with a narcissist. For people who wonder, well, how is a narcissist able to sustain a long-term relationship? And what would it have been like if I had not, say, set my boundaries and stayed with a narcissist? What kind of experience could I have expected? So if there's anyone out there who is healed enough or willing enough or brave enough to share for the benefit of our community their experience of a long-term romantic involvement with a narcissist, please email me at narcscon@gmail.com. I leave it in the description. It's NARCSCON, narcscon@gmail.com. So just to put it out there, thank you very much. Okay, the last video we did, guys, was about the fact that the narcissists, in my humble opinion, always Hoover. Invariably, a lot of time might pass, a short time might pass, but in my opinion, they always in some way come back to either check on you or to get back with you. So there are scenarios where they're less likely to Hoover. And if I could just put a little addendum in there, if that's the right word, in my opinion, again, at some stage in your life, they always will come back at some stage. But scenarios where they may not come back, I'd like to cover now, or maybe less likely to come back would be the correct wording. So in any situation, in any stream of life, if you want to find out an answer to a question that's related to a person, I find it useful to look at a person's motivation. And if you can understand a person's motivation, you can often answer the question to a certain extent. So there are various degrees of people who have narcissistic personality disorder or a narcissistic personality style. Some of them are very kind of lower grade, obvious, crude. Others are more passive aggressive. Others are very intelligent, but there's very, very few. And I am quoting H.G. Tudor's knowledge on this here. There are very, very few who are actually self-aware narcissists. So what I generally cover when I'm doing videos on narcissism is your commoner gardener narcissist. So for the purposes of this video, I would like to cover your everyday narcissist. Sounds like your everyday gardener or something, doesn't it? But anyway, your everyday normal narcissist. So narcissists, they suffer from a narcissistic personality disorder, but the disorder itself is very ordered in that, as we've discovered here on these channels, they all do the same thing, just with slight variations. They go through the same cycles. They're very predictable, which they actually hate to be, narcissists. If you said to them they're boring, predictable, ordinary, average, everyday, commoner garden people, that is like smacking a narcissist in the face with a dead fish 20 times. Or worse. So just to add a bit of humour into this awful thing we go through with them. So guys, if we look at the motivation, a narcissist's motivation for coming back is that they've invested a lot of time in you. They know you very well. And if you have anything to offer them, they will not want that to go to somebody else. They'll want it to be still there waiting for them in case they need it, as a backup, as a first position backup, as a fifth position backup. You know what they say on a lot of the channels, the narcissists want you in their harem. Whether it's a Mr. Narcissist or a Mrs. Narcissist, they all run these groups that they like to keep, they like to chair, they like to be in charge of, and they like to know that when they're going out taking these big risks and making these crazy decisions where they jump onto a new supply who they think is going to be the answer to all their problems, they like to know that they have a soft landing if all comes a cropper, and that person is not good. It won't be anything to do with them, of course, we know that. But they want a soft landing, so they want a nice groupie harem there waiting for them. So I digress. So the motivation of the narcissist is themselves and their needs. So if you have been a good supplier of their needs, if they think that they could harbour with you for a while, even as a stepping stone before their next biggie, movie star, movie time relationship, and you will, you know, you look after them, you cook their meals, you provide them with a nice place to stay, or any place to stay if they're without accommodation at the moment. So yeah, you know, their motivation is their situation at any given time. So when things go a cropper for them, as they invariably always do because of their risky, ill-judged jumps to other people, there's a few criteria, and here we go eventually. Let's get to it. So they're sitting there and they're thinking about their situation and they're looking at their options. And options are people. So their options are possibly a new supply, you know, in the offing, or jumping on Tinder or Grindr or whatever Inder you want to go on to engage a new source of servitude to you. I've been very sarcastic in this video. This is a new vein. Anyway, I want to look at it like that because it is like that, in my opinion. So yeah, so while they're doing that on the one hand, they're also looking at what they've left behind and what they have in storage, and is it time to take anyone out of storage? To either, you know, if they have enough potential to go right back into the relationship with them, and, you know, if that's their very best option at the time, yeah. Or to just kind of do a stopover, or to do a one-night stand. Whatever their motivation is, it'll be to do with their situation at any given time. So what looks less attractive to them when they're weighing up, they're sitting back there and they're going, let's have a look at this little group that I have gathered in my lifetime that are all sitting on various stools, possibly waiting for me. So they'll do a lot of tester hoovers, maybe send the same text out to 3 or 4 different options and see what comes back. Now, they also have to do a bit of information gathering on each of their possible return to candidates. If the candidate is married to somebody else or in a long-term relationship to somebody else, this is a deterrent. Now, I do use the word deterrent. It's not a full stop, oh, no, I can't go there. Because remember, they're not thinking about, you know, how it would destroy you in your situation, and I can't go there because that would be a terrible thing to do. They're not thinking about that at all. They're actually thinking they don't like the fact that you're with someone else at all, and how could you possibly replace them? And what kind of a asshole are you with now? So that doesn't matter to them. What matters is the effort they would have to go to get you released from that situation, the risk they might be taking to it not working out and their defense mechanism taking a big dent, and the time and energy it would take. So they're assessing whether it's worth investing their time and energy in that situation for what kind of outcome. What would be the plus gain out of that? So they'll weigh you up if you're married with somebody else, with someone else who's sitting on, say, chair 2 in the harem group, and if the other person isn't, then they'll be more in a more favorable position for the Hoover and re-engagement in the relationship, in their romantic relationship possibility candidate. So the other thing they look at is if you're sick. That's a big no, unless you're going to recover fairly quickly. If it's a serious illness, well, that would not be a viable option for them at all, because they're not going to go back and care for you unless you're going to pop off, as I said in another video, and they could do a quickie marriage and maybe get some of your, convince you to leave them whatever you need to leave them in the will, or if they were married to you, they'd get it. So if you're sick and you're in need of a lot of care, and it's looking like it could go on for a year or two, and it's looking like it wouldn't be a viable option in relation to what they get out of it. Remember, it's what they would get out of it going back to you. So sick or destitute, they're destitute. So another destitute person's not going to be of any value there. So we'll crisscross that one out immediately. If you live too far away, and if their supply situation, like their family, their children, their friends, are in a certain area, and they'd have to take a risk like moving to a totally different country where they knew no one, unless their circumstance is that they need to escape a situation where they've been exposed and their family and friends are looking at them less favourably, and they're not giving them the supply that they need. Then if you lived in a different country and they wanted a fresh start, you would be A1 supply. If you showed willing and looked like you could be won over and were going to be cooperative and wanted them back, you'd left the door open for them to come back. So you can see on the one hand, you living in a different country would be them giving up their, say, 50% supply that they were working on at the moment, that they kind of had coming in at the moment, and it would mean that they'd be taking a great risk going to a new place and leaving that kind of maintaining supply behind. So again, depending on their situation. Again, if you are in a different country and you're not sure that your ex was a narcissist, and they do come back to you and they say they would like to start again, do a bit of digging about their situation, where they are at this point in time, and try and find out as much information as to how their situation is going and why they might want a new start in a new place. Is it the place that's attractive, or is it you that's attractive? It's an interesting one, but this is one of the criteria that a narcissist may or may not hoover. It could be a deterrent, or it could be a draw, you living far away from them. A biggie one that they don't want to come back to you, or they're afraid to come back to you, is if your family and friends are very supportive of you and they have seen what a narcissist has done to you, and they're very, very anti this person, and maybe even one or two of them have threatened this person that if they're ever to darken your door again, that they would suffer severe consequences. Narcissists, particularly the passive-aggressive kind of cowardly ones, not the crude ones like that, I can deal with anything, those, I'll get rid of those, creeps, or I'll put them in their place, or they have me to deal with if I come back to you, it's about us, it's not about them. But if you have the kind of more cowardly ones, that's going to be a big deterrent for them. They will let a lot of time pass before they put their tender little tootsies in near you, because they'll be very, very it's a big risk for them. The exposure of that is a big risk for them. Their image is very important to them as being a really nice, kind, good, loving person. So if they thought they were going to go into what for them would be a kind of viper's nest of people who knew exactly what they were and what they were capable of and were going to fight against them in a union, they would be very reluctant to dip their toes back into that particular pool. So it's a really good protection if you do have a strong family support and strong friend support. The narcissist is unlikely for quite some time. Time, again, they can reframe everything in time. And if a number of years have passed, they can do a good few tests on you to see if the family indignation has died down and if you are suffering, missing them, and would still welcome them back with open arms and perhaps stand against the family in their defense and would make sure that your family and friends, behaved themselves. And if you reframed things for the family and friends and said it was your fault that the narcissist had left, so they'd want you to do that to make sure that the situation was going to be of no risk to them coming back. And they'd come back as the glorified hero, the wronged person, the victim in the situation who was coming back to rescue you and do good. So, and the last thing I would say is what would make it really uncomfortable for a narcissist to hoover and come back. Again, it goes on what I said in the last instance. If they were very exposed in an area and there wasn't really much hope of them without doing a hell of a lot of work to change people's minds, if they'd been exposed in a community, why put themselves through that hassle, and why compromise their false mask to the extent that it could take so many cracks and dents when all they have to do effectively is go off to a new community and present as this really, gorgeous, maybe communal charity working nice person where they can start all over again and have a great number of years before anyone is onto them, maybe. So exposure, your family threatening their safety in some way, it would be too much of a risk for them to come back. You live too far away would be a deterrent, or again, we've covered that it could be a draw, and you being with somebody else is a deterrent, but not a full stop. Again, an awful thing they do in this situation is if they're bored and looking for a bit of attention and you're in a relationship with someone else, they can interfere in that relationship as a kind of Maria friend, and they can be in contact with you a lot or try and regain contact and control and set you against the partner that you're with at the time and just enjoy seeing your relationship break up. But then deciding that after you've broken the relationship up, they actually don't want you, that they've also been working on someone else in the background and that someone else looks preferable. But it's kind of like, well, they've broken your relationship up. Well, it was your fault. You broke the relationship up yourself. I mean, obviously that person mustn't have been for you. So then it kind of places you back in the harem again anyway. So it's a win-win situation for them. So guys, they're the reasons that I can come up with that it would be less favourable for a narcissist to hoover, but not a full stop. If you like this information, please consider subscribing, get our information out, do what you can today to take a blow against the narcissists, hit the like button, comment, share how you feel about narcissism, do whatever you can, not just on this channel, but on all channels to do to take a blow for anti-narcissist awareness on YouTube and in the world in general. Guys, have a great day. I'm going to come back to you very soon. Have so many more videos lined up that I'd like to do. And again, please consider, if you have been in the long-term relationship and you do think you can talk knowledgeably about it that would really help other people answer their questions about a long-term romantic relationship with a narcissist, please consider getting in touch. I'd love to hear from you. Thanks, guys. I'll see you again soon. Bye.